So let's talk about where things stand right now as the government shutdown moves into its 30th day. The Affordable Care Act subsidies and your fight to extend them has really become the central point of your position in all this. Why have you chosen the ACA subsidies to be the focal point of your efforts here?
Thank you so much. Good to be here. Let me say right from the jump that I don't like government shutdowns. Uh, this is, a terrible situation for folks. But I'll tell you what else is terrible. Right now, Georgians who rely on the exchange for their health care, who need the Affordable Care Act, are in real time opening up Georgia Access, or in other states, they're looking at healthcare.gov, and they are seeing that their healthcare premiums have doubled. And when I say that, I don't mean some people, I don't mean this is the exception. On average, their healthcare premiums have doubled and in some instances tripled or quadrupled. This is a huge burden on small business owners, on entrepreneurs, people that I've been talking to every single day. And in an environment where people already can't afford food because food is going up, coffee is going up because of tariffs. When we import 99% of the coffee in the United States, we can't grow coffee in the United States. And on top of all of that, now their healthcare is unaffordable. And this is a decision that Republicans sadly have made. I don't expect them to see this exactly the way I do, but it would help if they come to the table and have a conversation, and it would help if the folks in the House would actually come back to work. They've been away for 6 weeks.
Let's talk about this deadline, because as of right now, if the ACA subsidies and the policy around them do not change, those Affordable Care Act subsidies are set to expire at the end of the year. But that deadline was known for some time. Why is this conversation happening now? I can hear some viewers saying, I'm sure, why wasn't this addressed earlier?
You should ask the Republicans that. They have the White House, they have the majority in the House, and the majority in the Senate. The fact is, we voted on this a few times this year, and each time they have blocked us. You should ask them why they're okay with healthcare premiums doubling for 22 million Americans, 1.2 million Georgians. You should ask them why they're okay having taken healthcare away from 15 million Americans. And you know where this is especially hard hitting? Ironically, in red districts. Folks are framing this as a fight between Democrats and Republicans. Maybe the politicians see it that way, but I tell you what, the people don't, and I don't see it that way. I was down, in Evans County, Georgia, not long ago, where this rural hospital is in trouble because of these draconian cuts. And so I'm going to fight for the people of Georgia, even the ones who didn't vote for me, even in those red districts, which are going to be especially hard hit by both these healthcare cuts and this awful decision that they've made to deprive SNAP recipients of their benefits, because this is a choice that they are making.
You bring up two things I want to ask you about. Let's circle back to SNAP, because that is a conversation and an issue that is developing in real time as we're talking here today on Thursday afternoon. You mentioned we should ask Republicans about their perspective on this. We do. And I want to ask you another question we always ask them as well, because right now it seems the state of play is most Democrats want to see movement on the ACA subsidy issue as a precondition for supporting any bill that would fund the government. Most Republicans say the CR, the continuing resolution, is the path forward. There's this big gulf between these two positions. Let me ask you this. Is there anything you are willing to compromise on to reach a deal to reopen the government?
Oh, look, let's have a conversation. The problem is they won't even talk about it. And literally, the folks in the House won't even come back to work. I want you to think about this irony. As part of the big, ugly bill, they put these onerous work reporting requirements on Medicaid. And they call it work requirements. I call it work reporting requirements, because it's really the paperwork. And it's clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to discourage people from getting their benefits because they want to give billionaires, as they did, a tax cut. If they would hold themselves by the same standard that they're holding Medicaid recipients, namely work requirements, the folks in the House wouldn't have any health care because they're literally not coming to work right in the midst of this crisis. They ought to show up. Again, I don't expect them to see this the way I do. I mean, that's the art of politics. That's the art of the possible. We sit down, and it's like any negotiation. You think about it, even in your own family. You sit down, even family members, and I still think of us that way, even in these divided times. We are the American family, and we have a complicated story. But you know, in your own family, you sit down. Different people have a different view about what to do or where to go on vacation or whatever it is. And at the end of a good negotiation, everybody's a little bit happy, everybody's a little bit unhappy. That's because you had a negotiation. And the story of this moment is that Republicans refuse to talk because they're so beholden to billionaires.
Let's talk about some of the impacts of this shutdown. Obviously, the Affordable Care Act, health premiums, health insurance premiums are one of the main topics here, but there are lots of impacts of a shutdown. Democrats are right now, as you've explained, fighting to try to get an extension of these ACA subsidies. There are lots of other people in the country. There are lots of Georgians who are employed by the federal government. They're still going to work. They're not getting a paycheck. I wonder if some of them may look at the situation, and if they had a chance to talk to you, they might say, hey, Senator, reopen the government now so I can get my paycheck. What would you say to a voter like that?
Listen, I don't like government shutdown. Some of those people are in my church. Some of those folks are close to me. I know these people. This is not theoretical. I was literally on the streets with CDC workers earlier this year protesting what this administration is doing. The awful reality is we've been in a government shutdown, not 30 days. We've been in a slow rolling government shutdown ever since this president raised his right hand. We've been in a slow rolling government shutdown for the last 9 months. And I'm glad you brought up federal workers because they've been taking it on the chin. The folks who keep our air and our airways safe, the people who keep our water and our air clean, the people who protect us in ways that are unimaginable, ways we don't even think about because they've been doing such a good job. They have literally been demonized by this administration. And through the rhetoric of lifting them up, CDC workers in Atlanta, like they're the enemy. And now we're in the midst of this shutdown. I'm standing with them. I'm standing for them. Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the White House. They can end this anytime. And at the same time, here's what ought not be a part of the shutdown. SNAP recipients. I want people to be really clear. This is a decision that they're making. They have $5 billion in a contingency fund, which was intended for just this kind of moment. We've never allowed SNAP to go dark. I think to use sick people and to pit them against hungry people, to use hungry people and weaponize them against the interests of sick people is deeply immoral. And I would call on those who pray like I do this coming weekend to think about their neighbors, and let's find a way forward.
I want to be respectful of your time. I want to ask you just one or two last questions here. You bring up SNAP. There's litigation happening as we speak on that topic. I know some people are going to watch this. They're going to hear what you say. They're going to be nodding their heads along and saying, I agree. I imagine, and I expect you to imagine as well, there may be some others who hear your concerns about SNAP benefits being dispersed in the first week of November, and they may say, there's another road to make sure that happens, and that is to reach a compromise deal to reopen the government. Is that something that should be done?
I think the fact that they have dragged SNAP recipients in this fight tells you a lot of what you need to know. I mean, the word craven comes to mind. That these folks aren't even in this. This is an ugly situation. Federal workers, you know, they've been taking it on the chin. I want to see people get paid. I want to see people back at work. But they have dragged these people into this fight. They literally scrubbed their own website, which explained that if we find ourselves in these circumstances, here's how SNAP recipients get their benefits. And the contingency fund, it was on their own website. I wonder why they scrubbed the website. And now they're in court spending time and resources fighting when they ought to just feed God's hungry people. Meanwhile, we can figure out our way to get folks health care and reopen the government.
Senator, I want to end with this. Some of the best relationship advice I ever got was always be the first to apologize. And obviously, you know, that's not apples to apples here, but I've thought about it a lot, and I think a lot of Georgians and Americans have thought about it a lot over the last 3-4 weeks now. There's a big gulf between the Republican and the Democratic position right now in the Senate and in Congress. Do Democrats bear any of the responsibility for this gap and for this funding bill still not being a done deal?
To have power is to be in leadership is to have some responsibility. And so it is my responsibility to be a voice for the people of Georgia. And right now I'm being told by the Republicans who are holding everybody hostage to choose which hostages I want to release. Do I want to release the federal workers? Do I want to help the 22 million, the 1.2 million Georgians who need health care? Or do I want to help the federal workers who are caught up in the midst of this? They're asking me, it's like asking a father to choose between his children. I love all of them. This situation is untenable. Again, I know that if we sat down at a negotiating table, nobody's going to get everything they want, but they won't even talk. Shucks, they won't even come back to work. It's shameful, and we can do better than this.
Senator, is there anything I missed that you think is important?
I think I'll end right there.
Senator, we appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Take care.